Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's Tour Pro Talks. I'm Genevieve White. I'm a copywriter and coach who helps travel and tourism businesses. And I'm joined today by Carolyn Campbell Baldwin, who works with Pinterest to help travel businesses grow an engaged audience and make more sales. Welcome, Carolyn.
Hello there. Thank you so much for having me on.
Oh, it's really lovely to have you with us. And I think we're going to learn so much today about Pinterest because I know that everybody's probably heard of Pinterest, but not everybody is really aware of how it can be used to, as you say, engage people, grow your audience, and increase your sales as well. So if you're watching today, hello to our audience. Sorry, I almost forgot to say hello to everybody. Thanks so much for joining us. If you are watching now, please say hi and also say where you're from and maybe as well tell us, are you using Pinterest? How much do you already know about Pinterest? If you're not using Pinterest, what puts you off? It'd be great for Carolyn to find out how much you already know because I'm sure we don't want to be telling you stuff you already know about Pinterest. But I'm guessing that a lot of people aren't quite sure about all the things Pinterest can do and maybe even what Pinterest is. So, Carolyn, could we maybe just start today with a kind of brief explanation of what Pinterest is?
Yeah, of course. So, what I find often happens is that when I tell people what my business is and what I do, they sort of say, "Oh, I'm sure I use Pinterest for kitchen renovation or to pick out, cushions or things." But the really key thing to understand about Pinterest for business is that it's a visual search engine rather than a social media site. So it's not disruptive marketing. So it's not a site that you're if you're on Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn, you're expecting to hear from connections and people that you know. Whereas with Pinterest, the content that you are served is sort of benchmarked to your interests. It's things you've previously searched. So a client once referred to it to me as like Google on steroids. So, and I often call it a pretty Google. That's essentially what it is. You use keywords to make sure that your content gets found in search, and you take your potential clients on a journey which goes from your content on the site, which leads them back to a longer form piece of content, a blog post, a sales page, a podcast on your website. And from there, you create that relationship. You can either offer them something that they opt into and get their email address and build a relationship that way, or you can build a relationship through them exploring your website and your offers and getting to know you that way.
Great. So it really is an excellent way to, reach new people and start to build relationships with
Yeah,
them.
exactly.
Okay. Hi, Maple. Hello from Goa. Lovely to have you with us, Maple. Hope you're doing fine today. Feel free, everyone else, to drop your hellos and see where you're from in the comments. So, Carolyn, why is Pinterest so very useful for travel businesses in particular?
Mainly because of the longevity of the pins. So when you're using a traditional social media site, if you're using Instagram to share pictures, then what you've probably found is that your content doesn't last very long. It really does have a lifespan of kind of hours, and when you post it is quite important to the engagement that it gets. But with Pinterest, once you've posted that pin, once the content is up there, it lasts for years and years and years, as long as that URL is active, because it's not time bound. People are finding you in a search. So if I'm looking, so my son's off to Bali on Friday. So we've been looking at, best things to do in Bali, top places to visit in Bali. And when we go through to travel brands' websites and recommended visiting places and videos, maybe, we don't know when that has been put up there. It's just answering my question. I'm there with my problem, looking for inspirational answers, and I'm getting served the answer to that and being
Right.
taken through to that long form content. And that could have been posted, a couple of years ago.
So from a user's point of view, I mean, do you risk finding out of date information or, misleading information on Pinterest?
Well, not if the business is on top of what they're doing, because what they should be doing is, if information has changed, particularly in terms of travel, if you know the attractions are no longer available or offers are no longer available, then what you can go in and do is change your URL on the pin.
Mm, right. Okay.
But what you find is that most of the time people know the platform well enough to post some pretty evergreen content. So it's things that are not likely to change. So what people don't post is their kind of 2024 offers, say.
Yeah.
What
Okay.
they do pin to is a great blog post on fabulous places to visit in Bali with children.
Okay. Right. Right. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Okay. And I suppose as well, while we're talking about why it's such a good platform for travel businesses, the fact that it's visual, as you say, it's a pretty Google, then most travel businesses are going to have some pretty amazing photographs and visuals as well. So they're maybe off to a head start with it.
Absolutely. And travel always does amazingly on Pinterest, because it's one of the things that people are searching for, that inspiration
Yeah.
on. And a lot of it is really lovely visuals and often really nice videos.
Yes. All right. Okay. Because I hadn't thought of videos being on Pinterest
Yeah,
as
yeah,
well.
you can repurpose your video for Pinterest as well, and put it on there, and it really gives that small taste that gets people to click through to your website.
Right. Okay. Okay.
Um,
That's really good to know. Okay. Good. So, yeah, Junaid is saying hello from beautiful northern Pakistan. So it's lovely to know uh, where you are, where everybody's watching from. Okay. So we've spoken a little bit about basically what Pinterest is and why it's particularly useful for travel businesses. Let's now talk about maybe strategy. What if you've got a travel business, what would a good strategy be for, promoting your business,
mhm.
engaging an audience?
So the three kind of key elements of a Pinterest strategy are those high quality visuals that we've just been talking about, some really lovely images, videos. Keyword optimization is the most important thing you can do. Um, what you need to be doing is going on Pinterest and using the platform to create your own bank of keywords, um,
Mhm.
that people are already searching for on the platform, to make sure that your content appears kind of above the fold in the first few search results. Um, because when you use those keywords in your graphic, in your pin title, and in your pin description, then Pinterest gets to know what you talk about, and it gets to trust your website. And then the more people that they find that click through to it, the more it trusts you. Um,
Okay.
I mean, I think what I always say is that Pinterest is a marathon, not a sprint. You don't get those kind of dopamine hits of, you know, lots and lots of people commenting on your pins. That doesn't really happen. But what you do get is a long-term sort of marketing arm.
Mhm.
So it just chugs away in the background. And then as long as your pinning strategy is consistent, then that will just potter away in the background and complement the rest of your digital marketing strategy. Because it's not about spending a lot of time babysitting that content. It's not about spending a lot of time engaging with other users, or, doing lots of likes and comments. You can set yourself up a system where you're just spending a couple of hours a week scheduling all your pins out, and then you can just leave it.
Right, okay. I'm sure that will actually come as a relief for a lot of the people watching, because we all know, don't we, that social media can just, like, take up so much time. It's not just the thinking of things to post, but it's the engaging with other people's posts and checking out what people are saying about yours and replying to them, and it's all just a bit of a time sink, isn't it, really?
Yeah, that's exactly it. And you don't even have to, your description isn't a sort of a very fancy story oriented caption that you would use on another platform. It's literally a couple of sentences that describe
Mm.
what that person's going to find when they click through to the long form content.
Yeah. And I mean, when it comes to keywords, because I mean, that's something that can feel quite overwhelming for people sometimes, but I mean, is it kind of just the same principles if you've got a website and you're finding your keywords for SEO purposes? Would it be the same kind of
Yeah.
process for
Yeah,
for
you could use so you could definitely start with that list that you've got that you're capturing for Google or search engines, but it's really, really easy to find your keywords on Pinterest itself because like Google, it has a guided search. So
Mhm.
when you type in, so if I were to type barley, say, into my search bar, then underneath Pinterest gives me a list of other long tail search terms that people are looking for.
Okay.
So top 10 things to do in Bali, places to go with kids in Bali. So all of those terms will pop up underneath. And
Okay.
then equally helpfully, when you type that first keyword into the search and press search, then underneath there's lots of lovely coloured bubbles filled with all of the other words that people are searching for. So you can pretty much scrape those words and build your list of keywords from what people are already searching for on the platform.
So I mean, you could probably use Pinterest to feed back into your SEO for Google as well, couldn't you
Yeah,
then?
you can, because often when you search on Google, because Pinterest obviously has a really high domain authority, when you're searching those similar terms on Google, often what pops up at the top of the search results are pins on Pinterest.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I've noticed that.
Yeah, because it kind of meets the criteria. It's a really trusted site. So it's another good way to kind of sneak in the back door of getting on the top of Google as well.
Yeah. Okay, brilliant. And in terms of posting frequency, you were talking about scheduling posts for a couple of weeks or what have you. I mean, would it be regular daily posts you would be putting out on Pinterest?
Yeah, I tend to do one post a day for my
Mhm.
content, but as I say, I can schedule all of that out in under 2 hours,
Right.
um, because I'm not trying to write creative captions to go along with it.
Yeah.
It's factual,
Mhm.
um, and the easiest thing to do is to create yourself a set of kind of templates, or even just not use any words on your graphic at all, just post your picture. And then in Pinterest itself, you can schedule it all out. It's really easy to do.
Okay, and then let your keywords do all the heavy
Yeah.
lifting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then more, as with anything, the more you post, if you post 15 pins a day, then you're going to get more traction more quickly.
Mhm.
But equally, consistency at one a day or three a week, whatever works for you, is better than splurging a load out there and then not touching it for a year.
Right. Okay. So yeah, so like with other platforms, then consistency is key. It's
Mhm.
good to have a kind of pattern, a sort of
Yeah.
posting pattern that you stick to.
Yeah.
Okay. This is all very helpful because I think, it for some reason Pinterest is it just I don't know, it's maybe not as well known. I think it's a bit of a mystery in some ways to people. So it's really good to just to demystify it basically.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. Yes, I think it does I think a lot of people think, "Oh, I can't be bothered with another platform,"
Mhm.
um, because, we're all busy, everyone's got stuff going on, but it's one of those ones that can just chug along in the background and keep leads coming into the top of your funnel without you really having to do that much.
Yeah, so it's a no-brainer really, because why
Yeah,
wouldn't why
yeah.
wouldn't you want to attract more people without too much effort? And, if you're looking to really reduce the effort even further, I guess you're gonna be able to just repurpose a lot of the stuff you've already put out on social media.
Absolutely. I guess most brands have got a lovely big bank of photos that they're already using on their website and on their socials that they can just link to a blog post or a piece of content on their website and work it out that way.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So yeah, even less effort. It's getting better all the
Yeah.
time. Um, okay, let's talk a little bit about trends because we're always talking about trends in travel, trends in social media. What about Pinterest? I'm sure there must be some trends emerging there that people might want to know about.
Yeah, so the great thing about Pinterest at the moment is that they are really, really keen to make life as easy as possible for businesses. So they released their own trends report. So there is a travel trends report which came out in March, which I can pop in afterwards, and which talks about all the emerging trends and there's searches. So it was really interesting. I read in this article that searches for things like travel vision board and packing guide were up by, travel vision board was up by 210% on searches from last year, and packing guide was up 480% on searches from last year. So they're really things that were for my clients. I'm looking to capitalize on those trending keywords to get as many eyes as possible. But some of the things that are trending at the moment on Pinterest are luxury safari lodge, mountaineering, trekking, and adventure camping. And again, they're ones that I'm looking to capture for my clients because the number of people that are searching for has gone up a lot. And then in terms of destination, some of the popular search terms are Santorini party, which I loved. I mean, that's quite specific, isn't it?
Also sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Great.
Goa nightlife. Goa nightlife is up 270% on searches from last year, which is quite good. Summer in Brazil and Bali vibes. So, but the best thing is when you go into your Pinterest account, there's a little Pinterest button on the left-hand side. You click that button and it will give you lots of choices. One of the choices is trends. And when you go into trends and you type in your keyword or your something that you think you want to target, so I've got a client who specializes in adventure travel in the Iberian Peninsula. So we might type in, say Lisbon, and we can see, Pinterest will show you what kind of search terms are trending around Lisbon, whether they're trending up or they're trending down, alternatives. It will give you seasonal trends, yearly trends. So it's got a really great inbuilt tool that you can use to inform those keywords that you're using.
It really does sound like it makes life very easy. I mean, I must admit, I have looked at Pinterest. I mean, not recipes because I can't cook, but I've used it to make mood boards and things for projects in the past. But yeah, I mean, I've never actually used it to make pins of my own. So I think it does sound like like it's going to be quite intuitive, really.
It is, and I think if you think about when you use it as just a user, so when you're looking at, for the people who kind of say, "Oh, I just look at kitchens on it," then I always kind of say, "Well, but think about where you're going back to. Where are you going back to? You're going back to a company who's giving you ideas for lovely kitchens on their blog, or you're going to a blogger who's then going to get you to opt into something and get you on their email list." So
Yeah.
you're always going back somewhere.
Yeah. So it's like window shopping and then going into the shop, isn't it?
Yeah,
Really more
exactly.
old-fashioned analogy, but yeah. Um, and what about, you work with travel businesses who use Pinterest, and you use your expertise to help people, and I'm sure you must have seen some pretty amazing success stories. Can you share one of these success stories with us?
Yeah, of course. So the one with the adventure company in the Iberian Peninsula, that was a fairly new account that I took on about 6 months ago. And they had already been using Pinterest a little bit. They'd been dabbling, but they hadn't really got a sort of a strategy together. But they really wanted to add it into their marketing strategy because they could tell that it was a platform that people use for inspiration. So they wanted to capture that. And we've got to now where we're consistently attracting 225,000 plus impressions per month. So that's the amount of times it pops up in people's feeds, which is brilliant. And our pin click rate is about 3%. So, and Pinterest's average is 1.5 to 2. So we're doing really, really well with it. And people coming through to their website, I mean, I'm just having a look. I've got Pinterest on another screen so I can look at the metrics, but So yeah, so they're getting nearly 4,000 website visits a month purely from traffic coming from Pinterest.
That, I mean, that really is an incredible
Yeah,
result. Yeah, yeah.
and it's converted really, really well, because what they wanted to do was increase their website traffic and generate leads and build brand visibility. So that's what we've really prioritized, and we've A/B tested content. So we've tried, pins with graphics, pins with pictures, pins with words, pins with no words, and kind of settled on a strategy that has really resonated with their target audience, and making sure that it appears high up in those search rates, that the pins are getting clicked, and that it's that the description is sufficiently enticing that people then follow through onto their website.
They must be absolutely delighted, because that is an amazing result.
Yeah, we've done really well. It's the sort of the perfect brand for it.
And how I mean, what did you do? I mean, in terms of how you got that result with that client, was that like one-to-one sessions? How long did it take you to achieve that result? How many times did you have to meet
Yeah,
with
so
them?
that's me doing it entirely for them.
Right.
So I had a meeting with them to see where it would fit into their strategy, what they were already doing, and how they were converting people once they came onto their website. And now I take it completely off their hands.
Mm,
I've been doing it for 6 months, and I meet with their marketing team once a month, to discuss what we did last month, what we're going to do, and how that fits in with the rest of their strategy.
excellent. Because I mean, I suppose, although, we've been talking about how it's easy and as platforms go, it's simple and you can batch it up and so on and so on. I suppose when you're running a travel business and you're very, very busy, sometimes even the simplest things you just don't have time for. So it's really great to be able to just, hand it over, and then to get these sort of results is amazing.
Yeah, yeah, it's been really fun, and I like working like that. I like working with marketing teams because, as you say, they sometimes just don't have the bandwidth to do it, um,
Hmm.
and it's sometimes easier to just offload some of those things.
You must have permanent wanderlust, though, just like
Yeah,
looking at all of
absolutely.
these amazing places and, yeah, putting together pins and stuff. It would be, yeah, you'd just always be on to the next place, the next destination. Um, and so for people watching today, or watching on replay, who are thinking, right, okay, I've got to get started with this. Could you just suggest like the first few simple steps to getting going on Pinterest?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first step is to set up a Pinterest business account.
Mhm.
So if you're converting an old account, a personal account, make sure you switch it to a Pinterest business one. It's
Okay.
totally free to do, but what it does give you is access to all those analytics behind the scenes.
Okay.
So you can properly see what's doing well and what's not in terms of content, and focus on what your audience really likes. Um, then I'd optimize your profile. So make sure your profile description has those relevant keywords, that you're targeting, and says what you do and where your area of expertise is, whether it's niche specific like adventure travel or sustainable travel, or destination specific. Um, and then I would start by having a look at your content on your website, and deciding which fits in with those trends on Pinterest that you can have a look at in the trends tool, and just trying out 10 pins, for a blog post, scheduling them out, and then going back to them in a week to see how they're doing. And then sort of rinse and repeat that. But remember
Brilliant.
to create your bank of keywords. That's the most important thing, is finding those keywords.
That sounds like a great few first steps. And if you're watching and if you're thinking, oh, I like trying to take notes while Carolyn speaks. Don't worry, because I'll summarise our discussion and publish it in next week's newsletter, which will be out on Wednesday. So if you think you might have missed something that Carolyn's just said, don't worry. It'll be there for you to read and follow up on next week. So Carolyn, how did you get into Pinterest? Tell me, it's a really interesting niche that you've got there, using Pinterest to help travel businesses. How did it all come about and fall into place for you?
So we used to live abroad. We used to live in Portugal, in Lisbon. And at the time I was doing content marketing. So I was writing a lot of blogs for travel businesses. And I had one client who was local to us, and they were in Lisbon. And I went into their office for a meeting one day, and we'd planned a strategy, we planned what I was going to write about, we had everything all figured out. And just as I was going out the door, she said, "Oh, and can you link these all back to Pinterest when you've done them?" And I did that exact, "Is that not just for cushions?" And stuff. And so basically her company gave me a sort of a rundown on what they wanted to do on Pinterest and how it all worked, and it was a total revelation. So I started doing it for that company, and then they referred me to other people, and I started writing the blogs and doing the Pinterest end of it for other brands. And then I slowly transitioned over to doing more of the Pinterest and less of the writing. Once I'd figured out what it was and how it worked, I was completely hooked, because I was like, this is hands-free marketing. That
Mhm.
I don't have to, my phone is not pinging at me and needing me to do things and engage. So I thought, that's what I'm going to do. That seems to have been what I fell into by accident,
Mhm.
um, and actually it's been great. I've really, really loved it.
And I'm not sure if you know, but do you have any idea of what percentage of travel businesses use Pinterest? Because I kind of have a feeling it's maybe underused.
I think it's massively underused. What I'm noticing at the moment is a lot of the big brands, so TUI, American Airlines, what did I see the other day? Visit Wales, actually,
Mhm.
are advertising on Pinterest. So they have an organic presence, but they're also investing into ads. And TUI particularly picked up Pinterest after the pandemic,
Mhm.
because I was reading a case study, and they kind of said that they just wanted to get that visibility. So I suspect it is underused. And a lot of the searches on Pinterest are unbranded. I think it's I feel like it's a figure in the 90+%.
Mhm.
Um, which is great for smaller businesses, because people aren't looking for a Virgin cruise, they're looking for a cruise,
Yeah.
or,
Yeah.
which makes it much easier for your content to get more visible.
Yeah, so that means the opportunity is really there to make a big impact, because yeah, I suppose once everybody catches on, that's when it gets harder. But at the moment, this is like fertile ground, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's fantastic for those smaller brands who are doing well on socials and who are getting a lot of leads in, but want to get more visible.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think it's a really great platform, and travel is works really well on it.
So strike now, basically, is the message.
Yeah, yeah.
Hire a spot and go for it, and take all you've learned from today's session, which I must say has been really, really informative. Now, we're almost, unfortunately, about to wrap up, because, yeah, as usual, the session has gone far too quickly. But Carolyn, how can people find out more about you, and how can people work with you?
So my business is called Stretch Your Socials, and you can find me at www.stretchyoursocials.com, or you can find me on Instagram, on Pinterest, on LinkedIn, all under that same business name, or LinkedIn under my own name, Carolyn Campbell Baldwin.
Brilliant. So lots of places to find you. And yep, I will add all of these as well in the newsletter if you want to go and look Carolyn up. I'm imagining your Pinterest account will be a great place to get inspiration on how to do Pinterest properly.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what it's all about.
Brilliant. Okay, thank you so much, Carolyn. Thanks to everybody who's watched today. Thank you if you're watching on replay, and see you next week for another installment of Tour Pro Talks. Thanks again, Carolyn.
Thank you.
Goodbye, everybody.